So what we're going to see in the next few minutes is how change data capture works, and we're going to take a quick look at the demonstration of that. So what you see in the screen here is Power Exchange Navigator, and this is the interface where we onboard those tables or sources from which we have to capture the changes, and then we define what are the attributes that we want to capture the changes for, and do we want to capture the changes before and also the changes after the changes were made. What kind of configurations do we want to define and how we want to process the changes. All of that is what we define in this phase. So the first step towards capturing changes is to register the sources, the tables that we want to capture the changes from. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say we want to register those tables. So I've already onboarded some of the tables. In this case, I've got a customer table for which we want to capture the changes from. So we can really select all those tables from inside a schema or go into different schema and select multiple objects. It really depends on the sources that we want to capture the changes from. In this case, for this example, I've just got a single table, which is a customer table in Oracle. And here are the fields and columns for this particular table. And again, I can pick and choose those columns for which I want to capture or keep looking for the changes and capture them as they happen, or I just want to pick few of those columns. I have the flexibility to go just pick those columns rather than looking for the entire table. So once we onboard the table, the next step for us is to go and define the mechanism, or how do we want to capture the changes, what are those columns. So I'm going to go ahead and open the definition that we've defined for this customer table again. So these are the columns for which we are going to look for any changes that happen from the source side. And again, there are a few things that we can change, right? Not only with Power Exchange for CDC, we capture just those columns and the data that changes, but we also have a lot of metadata that we capture, the kind of changes that take place, who made the changes, the timestamp, all of that is captured, so that from an administrator perspective or even from a developer perspective, if you want to go back and see who made the changes, what were the changes, we've got complete visibility into all of those details. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly show those columns. So here are a bunch of, or a whole list of columns or metadata that are captured along with the tables. So it's again, we can go and pick and choose those columns that we want to choose and then propagate it to the target, or we want to process based on the information, we can define those. I'm going to go ahead and quickly show another feature. So if in case we want to capture the changes, the value before the change happened and the value after the changes. So if we want to compare the difference between those two values based on a key column and then build the mapping logic inside of Power Center, we can define that. So I can go ahead and select the before images and also the indicators. So kind of it tells what the changes were. So we define all of that, and now we are set from the source side. So we've defined columns, tables, and the next step in the process is to, for us to go and check what are the changes. So I've made a few changes for this particular table in the source side. I'm going to go ahead and run this query here. So it's going to show me all those columns or the changes that have happened in the source side. So these are the metadata columns that I've talked about, right? Again, we kind of get an idea of who made the changes, so which user it is, when were the changes made, we've got a timestamp of it, and again, what kind of change are we talking about? Are they updates, or are they deletes or inserts? So the data, the DML defines the change that has taken place in the source side. Again, if we want to use that as a flag to define the processing in Power Center, we can do that. So once we've configured all of it and we've captured the changes and we've got the source, the next step is to go into Power Center. And this is a familiar interface for a lot of you. You've been using Power Center for traditional data warehousing and ETL functionality. So like any other source, I can go ahead and I can import the source object from within Power Center Mapping Designer. So I've got this source imported already. I can go ahead and I can quickly do a preview of the source. I can see the changes like I was able to see that from within Power Exchange Navigator. So I see all of the metadata, what kind of changes they are, and the changes itself, the values. So I can see all of that from within Power Center. And from here on, it's the same process like any other Power Center mapping. You can drag in the source for Power Exchange for the change data capture, and then you can go on and build your business rules. And here is the real benefit of Power Center, right? You've got all these wide variety of transformation, any kind of business rule and logic that you want to apply. The only difference is now we are going to capture changes from the CDC source It could be real time, or like Scott said, it could be batched up in every 4 hours, every 6 hours. So you can really define how you want to process those, and then build the business rules and logic within PowerCenter and push those changes to any target. In this case, it's going to be an Oracle table, but it need not be the same target as the source. It can be a different system. It could be a flat file. It can really go into any target, irrespective of where the data is coming from. So we've defined a simple mapping here, capturing the changes from the source. It's just straight pass-through mapping going to a target. And from the session perspective, everything looks the same, nothing changes. Even though this is going to be a real-time data feed, it's going to bring the changes as they happen from the source side. I've got a few connections or connections defined for this real-time connection, so I go ahead and define a few properties, depending on how long do I want this to be running, or do I want this to be running continuously. So it looks for changes, and as the changes happen in the logs, it's going to just pick those changes and push it to the target. So I can define those properties and how do I want to capture changes? Do I want to capture the before images as well as the changed value itself? So I can define how do I want to process or capture changes. And once I define those parameters within the session, we are all set to execute this workflow, right? I can go ahead, I can start this workflow, and this is going to be like any other workflow, but the only difference is I'm going to run this in real-time mode. So this is going to keep running. If you want this to be running all day, it's going to keep running. So I've got 4 rows changed, and it has captured both the before and after images. So I've got 8 rows pushed to the target. And again, if I just don't want the values before they were changed, I can just push the modified values or the updated values. But in this case, I'm capturing both. And this is going to keep running. It's going to keep running forever unless I want to stop it, or I define the limit when it has to stop. And if I go ahead and make changes to the source now, it's going to immediately pick up those changes, and it's going to push the target. So let me say I want to make some changes right here. So let's say we want to change the status. Oops, sorry. I'm going to change something that's not really significant, but I want to change a few rows. I'm going to commit these changes. And if I go back in here, now it's going to keep running. It's going to capture those changes, and it's going to keep looking for changes, and it'll be pushed to the target as it runs. So I don't really have to intervene in the process. It's going to capture the changes in real time. And now you can see here in the target, now we've got 16 rows. So we've got 8 more rows, 4 of after and before, and all of that pushed the target in real time. So there's really no intervention from a developer perspective, and everything is captured real time, and they're available for the end user, be it reporting or active data warehousing. Everything is there in the target system for us to go look at that data.